After 30 years apart, two identical women were finally reunited. But what happened next shook everyone. The shocking secrets of the woman who claimed to be their real mother, hidden for 3 decades, were finally exposed. It all started one quiet afternoon when Grace wandered into the attic. She had gone looking for photo albums. But what she found was far from memory. Hidden under a pile of dusty curtains was an old Bible, untouched for years. Something deep inside told her to open it, and there, pressed between its fragile pages, was a yellowed newspaper clipping, faded but full of secrets. Her eyes locked onto the headline, "Mystery Surrounds Disappearance of Newborn Twins at Benign General Hospital." Her heart pounded, hands trembling. She kept reading. 30 years ago, 2 infants labeled Baby A and Baby B vanished under suspicious circumstances. A nurse, later dismissed without formal charges, was accused of trafficking newborns to high-paying families. The case was closed due to lack of evidence. Grace's hands shook. She wasn't just separated from Alice. She was sold. She ran down the stairs, the clipping crumpled in her fist. Alice was already in the living room, laughing with the kids. But the moment she saw Grace's face, her laughter died. "We were taken," Grace whispered. "This proves it." Henry, calm as ever, stepped forward. "Then we need the truth. DNA testing for confirmation and for justice." The tests were done swiftly. Grace and Alice, 99.9% identical. But the real shock came next. The lab technician, an older man with kind eyes, hesitated before handing Alice the report. "There's something else," he said. "Your DNA markers, they don't fully align with the woman you call your mother." Alice's world tilted. Mama Alice wasn't her biological mother. The house felt heavy that evening. The air was still, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. Alice sat on the edge of her bed, the DNA report in her hand. The words blurred and danced before her eyes, but she already knew what they said. Mama Alice, the woman who had raised her, scolded her, loved her, was not her biological mother. She couldn't sleep. Neither could Grace. The silence between them was thick with confusion and pain. The next morning, Alice didn't wait. She went straight to Mama Alice's room. Grace followed quietly behind. Mama Alice was sitting by the window, her hands wrapped around a cup of tea she hadn't sipped. Her eyes met Alice's and then Grace's. And in that instant, she knew. She didn't wait for questions. Tears filled her eyes before a single word was spoken. "I knew this day would come," she whispered, her voice trembling. Her hands shook as she placed the cup on the table. Her shoulders sagged. It was like years of hidden pain were finally too heavy to carry. And then the truth poured out. 30 years ago, Mama Alice was a young nurse at Benign General Hospital. She had seen many things: births, deaths, miracles, tragedies. But nothing had broken her heart like that night. A teenage girl from a powerful, wealthy family had gone into labor. She was alone, frightened, too young, and she didn't survive the delivery. But she had given birth to twin girls. No one came for the babies. The family abandoned them. The hospital was planning to hand them over to the government. A cold, uncertain future. "I couldn't let it happen," Mama Alice said, tears running down her cheeks. "I wanted to save them. I wanted to save you." She confessed that in her desperation, she made a choice that would change lives forever. She took one of the babies, Baby A, home with her. She raised her as her own. But before she could come back for Baby B, another nurse, a colleague with dark intentions, had already taken her. She later found out the woman was part of an underground ring that sold babies to wealthy, desperate families. That baby was Grace. "I thought maybe it was better not to know," Mama Alice cried. "But every birthday, every time you looked at me with those innocent eyes, I felt the weight of what I'd done." Grace stood frozen. Her legs felt weak. The woman who had raised her in worry wasn't her biological mother either. Just another pawn in a cruel, twisted plan. Her entire life, her name, her identity, it had all been a lie. But as her vision blurred with tears, she felt a hand slip into hers. Alice, no words, just fingers locking together like they'd always belonged. "We find our real family now," Alice said softly, firmly. And in that moment, they weren't two broken women with stolen pasts. They were sisters side by side, ready to rewrite their story. The journey to Lagos was long, but silence filled the car more than noise. Alice and Grace sat shoulder to shoulder, their hands clasped tightly. The address they held was fragile, scribbled from the corner of an old hospital file Mama Alice had kept hidden all these years. The moment they arrived at the estate, they could feel the weight of secrets in the air. The compound was massive, surrounded by high walls and an iron gate with golden designs that shimmered in the sun. The kind of place that whispered money and stories buried deep. A gatekeeper stepped forward, confusion on his face. He studied the two women carefully. Suspicion flickered in his eyes until Grace stepped closer. "Mama Elizabeth's face," he murmured, more to himself than to them. That name, Elizabeth, sent a shiver down Alice's spine. It was the name of the mother they never knew. He didn't ask questions. He simply opened the gate. The walk up the driveway felt like walking through a dream. Every step stirred questions neither of them knew how to ask. A maid answered the door, but barely had time to greet them before a frail, elegant woman appeared behind her. Her white lace wrapper flowed as she moved, and her gray hair was neatly pinned. Her face was gentle, but carried years of sorrow. Her eyes landed on Grace, then on Alice, and she screamed. It wasn't fear, it was recognition. Because she noticed Grace and Alice resembled her late daughter, Grace and Alice's mother. The resemblance was undeniable. Grace and Alice then recounted everything to her. A cry pulled from years of heartbreak. "My granddaughters," she gasped, stumbling forward. "They told me you both died with my daughter." Her arms wrapped around them before they could speak. The tears flowed freely from her, from Grace, from Alice. They sat in the living room, lavish and cold, filled with paintings and gold-rimmed furniture, and listened as their grandmother poured out decades of pain. Her daughter, Elizabeth, had fallen in love at 17. The man wasn't from their class. When she got pregnant, the family had hidden it. Elizabeth was sent to Benin to deliver quietly, but she died during childbirth. Her father, a powerful businessman, was enraged not with grief, but with shame. He paid the hospital to erase the evidence. The babies, he insisted, must never be traced back to the family name. He told everyone, including his wife, that Elizabeth and the twins had all died. Their grandmother had mourned for 3 lives. All this time, she had believed they were lost forever. Now here they were living, breathing, and sitting on her velvet couch. And fate had brought them back home. Peace had finally settled over Alice and Grace like the soft hug of morning sunlight. The storm of confusion and pain had passed, leaving behind clarity, strength, and family. One cool morning, the twins stood side by side in front of a small marble grave, shaded by a flowering tree. In their hands, they held fresh lilies. Beneath their feet rested the woman who had given them life and love, even in death. "We found each other," Alice whispered, tears falling gently. "And we'll never be lost again." Grace nodded and squeezed her sister's hand. "We are home." Just a few steps away, Henry stood with the children. His eyes were moist, heart swelling with pride. What started as a simple search for household help had transformed all their lives forever. What began as a husband hiring a maid became a journey of hidden truths, stolen legacies, unshakable love, and a bond that no lie, no distance, and no time could ever destroy. And in the end, the twins didn't just reclaim their past. They built a future together. With their new voice and influence, Alice and Grace started a foundation to help missing and trafficked children. They spoke at events, appeared on national TV, and worked with lawmakers to fight against child trafficking. Slowly, families torn apart were being reunited just like they had been. 5 years later, the foundation had brought over 200 families back together. On their 35th birthday, the two sisters stood on a stage in front of a large crowd. They held hands as a statue of their mother was unveiled, a symbol of her sacrifice, their journey, and the hope they now gave others. The headline the next day read, "Stolen Sisters Rewrite Their Destiny." Because sometimes even the most broken beginnings lead to the most beautiful endings. Even decades of lies, cover-ups, and hidden secrets could not stop the truth from coming out. No matter how dark the past, light always finds a way to break through. Even when stolen, sold, or separated, what is meant for you will find you. The bond of the sisters was written by destiny, and no man's plan could erase it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our channel for more emotional, mysterious, and inspiring stories. Until next time, thank you very much for watching.